here, Mr. Kearns.
Please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any in the audience that would like to be recognized?
West Horizon.
Mrs. Secretary, do we have anyone wishing to make a public comment to an agenda or non-agenda item?
Non-agenda?
Any comments regarding this item will be done when we reach that item. I turn it over to Mrs. Gonzalez for those who make a difference.
Thank you, Vice President Zapperston, and good evening, board members. For our Those Who Make a Difference segment tonight, we'll be recognizing the service of our 3 student board members, although we have only 2 with us this evening, for their positive representation of their classmates and for providing a student perspective during board meetings. So at this time, I invite Superintendent Craig to the podium to say a few words, as well as Crystal Gutierrez and Andrew Wong to come over here to the side to receive their award.
So this is a milestone night for our student board members. This is their last meeting with us. It seems like it's just been a few months ago when we went through this process, but it was a year ago March when we made this decision. We went with 3 outstanding student candidates, knowing that, as evidenced tonight, they have 3 really busy schedules. And we wanted to make sure that, for the most part, there was 2 student board members present. But want to acknowledge all 3 of them collectively. I think it's super important, Delaney and Andrew and Crystal. When Dr. Hiscock, Mr. Kearns, Mrs. Kegerice, and I were doing the interview process last year, one of the things, once we announced who they were, our expectation was that they would find creative ways to expand beyond the high school, go into our elementaries, our middle schools, and our community, and be able to talk about those events. And they took that to heart, and as you have seen, they've made videos, they've made PowerPoints, they have reported on all aspects of our community, and probably have done just a yeoman's job of really telling the story from a student perspective on all aspects of our community. So tonight, not only do we want to award them with a certificate, I want to give them a plaque in recognition of their service this year, and then we will take the plaque away, and then Dr. Hiscock will take them back and award them at their senior awards event. And so at this time, I want to acknowledge and appreciate Delaney, Crystal, and Andrew for all of their efforts and all of their work with a nice round of applause.
I just wanted to give a thank you for all of you guys. Thank you for this great opportunity, and I'm grateful for everything. I learned a lot. I learned how to be a leader. I learned how to make an impact, and I'm just super grateful for this amazing opportunity.
Yeah, so similar, I just want to say thank you for inviting us to these board meetings every 2 weeks. It's been a great experience, kind of getting to know everyone, going to the process of behind the scenes of West Aurora, knowing all the inside points of views, and it's been great speaking on behalf of all of our students for all of the amazing things that we've done over the school year. So, thank you.
They said it's a little different perspective from the podium. Mrs. Zapperston, if we can take a quick break and get a picture with the board, please.
Absolutely.
on the right side of this pad and then we'll let Iron go first.
All right, big smiles from everybody. 1, 2, 3. One more with the flash. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
And also, want to acknowledge and thank Mr. and Mrs. Palmer here tonight, you here to stand. Thank you for sharing your time. Doesn't happen by itself, so we appreciate it.
We come to the consent agenda where we have items we've discussed in previous meetings. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the items contained in the consent agenda for May 1st, 2023.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mrs. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. St. Jules. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Latham.
Aye.
Mrs. Stone. Mrs. Sapersmith.
Aye. We now come to the information part of the agenda. I turn it over to you, Dr. Craig.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 4.1 is our Q3, our quarter 3 treasurer report. And tonight we have with us our board treasurer, Mr. Greg Prost, with the aid of Mr. Ryan Abrahamson.
Good evening. Thank you to the Board of Education for allowing me to present the Treasurer's Report for the third quarter, and to Dr. Angie Smith and to Mr. Ryan Abramson and the rest of the administration for their diligent efforts. I am pleased to report that overall, the district remains in a strong position. I'm going to try to keep it brief, and you do have the presentation materials, so I will go through and hit the highlights. Property taxes are trending on budget, and 2022 bills will be mailed soon, and I believe I did see something in my inbox today as well from Kane County. CPPRT is also trending well ahead of budget. The budget was $3 million, actual is 5.7 through April. So that is also some great news there. Other local revenues are also trending ahead of budget, better than expected. Evidence-based funding is also trending ahead. We expect about 3.8 million in tier funding. Other state revenues are also trending on budget, and for fiscal 23, Q1 in October and Q2 in January. Federal revenues are also trending on budget, which is also great news, and a couple charts as well for you to review at your leisure as well. Salaries and benefits are trending below budget, partly because the district has had difficulty in hiring certain positions, and if you would like more information, I'd defer to Mr. Abramson, because he's more than nuts and bolts in this as well. And you have some additional details in the presentation here as well. And some additional slides for your review. And again, if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to defer to the staff. And I'll pause on the slides just for review. And I'm also very pleased to see that the cash balances are considerably higher than they have been in previous years, which puts us in a very healthy position should any needs arise and any unexpected things happen in the market. I've spoken with several local money managers as well as seen several national presentations. There are still some expectations that we'll see a barbell market this year, which is a very strong beginning of the year, which we have seen. Even today, we started to see things flatten a little bit. Who knows what we're going to see the rest of the year, but hopefully a strong end of the year. So we'll see what happens, and I'm very pleased to be able to come back and present what happens in actuality. Until then, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members, questions for Mr. Prost?
So our days of reserves will technically go down slightly just because costs, operating costs are up.
Yeah, so
good information to share.
I hope so as well.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
4.2 in information, I would ask Liz Wendell, our Executive Director for Secondary Teaching and Learning, to present our next secondary presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for having us back again. Tonight we have for you the continuation of our secondary updates. We were back in April and talked to you then a little bit about the social studies and science experience at our middle school level. Tonight you're going to hear from Dr. Smith, principal at Jewell Middle School, and also Mr. Bryant, our principal at Jefferson Middle School. And they're really going to talk a little bit about kind of two things. One of the areas in terms of building relationships and continuing our social emotional support for students, as well as giving you a little bit of a glimpse into our math sequence and our math programming for our middle school students. So with that, I'll turn it over to them.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Craig, and the executive leadership team. Thank you guys for inviting us here tonight. Thank you again for all the support that you've given us all school year long. Starting out, relationships matter. We strive at all 4 middle schools to create environments where learners feel welcome, safe, and connected. During the last board meeting, you heard both Tom and Cindy talk about how we're moving away from some of the old school classroom practices. The shift in learning won't be possible or wouldn't be possible without a major focus on building relationships, especially those between home and school. Furthermore, we know that math class should be more of a dialogue, an exchange of ideas where all parties seek both to understand and be understood. During our presentation tonight, we're going to be highlighting the exceptional work of the middle school math department in our schools, and that directly align to our belief in creating a safe and engaged community that prioritizes relationships to leverage learning. Again, I want to repeat that. A safe and engaged community that prioritizes relationships to leverage learning. Community is everything. Our focus on building relationships starts by strengthening the bridge between home and school. Through the numerous community building events such as open houses, parent-teacher conferences, and step-up nights, our schools engage our neighbors and families and make important, lasting connections. We have committed ourselves to increasing student, staff, and community pride in our schools through physical improvements to our buildings and classroom spaces to supporting our community members in times of need. Our students and staff feel a deeper sense of pride and connection. Increasing pride helps eliminate potential barriers to learning and promote safe and engaging learning spaces for all District 129 students. All 4 of our middle schools continue to develop our collective understanding of challenge and culturally responsive practices in order to ensure all of our students grow in our learning. We operate with the belief that all students can perform and achieve at high levels. Research shows overwhelmingly that students getting involved in extracurricular activities has a positive impact on their achievement. We know that all of our middle schools are finding ways to get our students involved. Between Jefferson and Jewell, we have over 50 different clubs, activities, and sports. These extracurriculars are allowing our students to connect and deepen their relationships with each other and staff in positive ways outside of the classroom. We are extremely proud to share that at Jefferson and Jewell, over 75% of our students were involved in at least one sport or activity during this school year. Additionally, this school year, we added impact counselors at each of the 4 middle schools. These counselors have been an excellent resource for students, staff, and families. For our staff, they provide professional development related to de-escalation techniques and restorative practice strategies. Each week, they create and distribute a newsletter highlighting helpful strategies staff can use with our students, covering a wide variety of topics in order to build stronger relationships school-wide. Additionally, our 2 impact counselors, both at Jefferson and Jewell, have performed over 500 restorative practice mediations this year with students and staff. By creating a safe space to repair relationships in order to focus on learning, These mediations have drastically decreased the number of repeat student-to-student, student-to-staff conflicts. With this additional layer of support in our schools, we've seen measurable decreases in out-of-school suspensions, and we've also noticed measurable increases in student attendance. At Jefferson, we are committed to creating a school culture that expects students and staff to talk through their mistakes and take risks in their learning. I wanted to share with the board and everyone here just a short video that kind of explains the joy of taking risks.
Feel alive?
I feel happy of myself.
I feel happy with yourself too. What do you have, any words of wisdom? What about for all the other kids trying to learn how to ride their bike? Do you say anything to them?
Everybody, I know you can believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you will know how to ride a bike. If you don't, you just keep practicing. You will get the hang of it, I know it. If you keep practicing, you will get the hang of it. And then you can get better and better at it as you do it.
Give me some thumbs up.
Thumbs up, everybody!
All right.
You're rocking and roll!
So we recognize we need to build consistency across all content areas, grade levels, to increase our capacity around engaging classroom spaces. If we are to fully meet our commitment to challenge and dialogue, our staff will continue to think critically about engaging learning spaces and practice high priority strategies as an entire teaching and learning community to promote student growth, engagement, and acceptance of challenging learning. Our work this year has been centered around a few key strategies that you see on the board that contribute to increasing our students' capacity to accept challenge on a daily basis, such as shifting ownership of learning from teacher to student, creating clear and consistent routines both behaviorally and academically, and increasing student time under academic tension. This time I'm going to turn over the mic to Dr. Smith.
Thank you. At the middle school level, we are committed to providing deliberate opportunities for planned dialogue and creating environments that enable students to take risks and make their thinking visible, leading to more meaningful learning. Over the past few years, all 4 middle schools have made increasing dialogue in all of our classrooms a priority. Dialogue is not just talking, it is much more complex than that. It's combining conversations with inquiry, it's asking questions and continuously constructing answers that help lead to meaning and understanding. It's about having opportunities to analyze and go deeper in all of our learning. In middle school, we expect all of our students to have various formal and informal experiences that expand their thinking to learn new information and make connections with their peers. And just as we are committed to our students, our teachers are also learners. Our teachers have been engaged in professional development opportunities and have taken advantage of professional learning days to create, collaborate, and plan, not only in one school, but between schools. Who's good at math? Many people believe that one is born with the talent to be quote-unquote good at math, while others are just not. However, many studies have proven that there's no inherent mathematical ability, and everyone can become proficient in math if they put in the time and effort. I respectfully ask for each of you to think about your past school experiences with math and the ways in which you were taught and learned to solve various math problems. We now know that we must go beyond the rote memorization, time tests, repetitive calculations, remember the 30 problems a night, and the traditional I do, we do, you do teaching practices. Currently, West Aurora Middle Schools are transforming the middle school math experience for all of our students. Life is problem solving, and the best definition of a good problem solver is someone who knows what to do when they don't know what to do. And that is exactly what we want to see demonstrated by our students as they learn what it means to be good at math. Now please take a moment and look at this problem. Don't worry, I won't make you show me your work, present your answer, or even give you a grade. However, I am interested in knowing, how would you go about solving it? Would you draw a picture? Would you use mental math, a system of equations, Or maybe you'd use a completely different approach that I haven't thought of. A thinking student is an engaged student. And if we want our students to think, we need to give them something to think about. Something that will not only require thinking, but encourage thinking. In math, this comes in the form of a task, and having the right task is important. Building thinking classrooms in mathematics exudes enthusiasm for all students. To succeed in a thinking classroom, students need to develop skills like perseverance, academic courage, to take risks and make mistakes, curiosity, and collaboration. And if we want students to develop these competencies, then we must find ways to evaluate them on it. In order to stimulate thinking, we are moving away from the more traditional approach of starting class with direct instruction, and instead, we're presenting our students with more challenging tasks, puzzles, or a string of carefully selected math problems that push them cognitively to build their own understanding based on what they bring to the classroom. With this, the role of the teacher is shifting away from being the sage on stage and the gatekeeper of knowledge. Instead, expertise needs to be leveraged for the participants in the room, and the teacher facilitates that through chosen tasks or problems, questioning strategies, and then jumping on opportunities for students to make connections in each other's thinking. In this upcoming video, you will hear from a few of our teachers who have been experimenting with the framework of building thinking in our math classrooms. You will also see some of our own students in action.
So students are trying in our classrooms to make their thinking visible. And they do that anytime they're speaking, anytime they're writing, anytime they're drawing about math, and others can see it and others can add to that. They make discoveries and eventually they end up leading their own learning without as much teacher input. So my students have been doing a lot of work at the whiteboards, standing around the perimeter of the room. And there's two types of tasks we mainly do. One is a task where there's multiple parts to it, but the beginning of the task always has an entry point for all of the students, and then it builds in understanding as they work through. The other type would be what we call thin slicing, where we start with a simple problem, and as they work through, each problem increases in its difficulty.
When I started teaching this way, I was really concerned about forming groups, because the suggestion is when you form a collaborative group, it's completely random, and that's different than what I was used to. So what I do is I have my class list in a spreadsheet, and I put it into a random group generator. Groups are usually divided into groups of 3, which seems to be best practice and work best. And then I make sure that I project the groups onto so the students can see, and they watch that it forms randomly, and then they get up from there and go to their spots to work at the board. And it's worked really, really well.
So when students are not working at the boards, they are at their seats, typically, maybe with a small whiteboard, so they're still making their thinking visible, and they're facing each other so that they can still work collaboratively. I have my classroom set up so that it doesn't appear to be a lecture hall, because I don't want the students to think that I am the only source of knowledge in the room, so that they're facing each other and they're gaining that knowledge from their peers.
I try to, a lot of times when students ask a question, I'll respond with a question and try to get them to think deeper about what they're doing. Is there another way you could do that? What else could you try? How do you know your answer is correct? Some things like that. I feel like questions that generate more thinking instead of telling someone what to do.
Is this a positive number or a negative number? Okay. Very good. Does that matter?
Why does it matter? Why do you think it would matter?
Oh, we gotta do the eggs. So there's, and how many groups would be in 16? 8. So, and there's only 2.
Porque son 3 y 4. Los separé
That would be for it. It's plus 11, so 2 positive for it.
We need to get the beloved number. We multiply by this. I would say it's the other one.
That would be one.
Yeah, I think it's the other one.
Yeah, it would be.
The challenge of thinking makes math way more enjoyable, and then you see kids that will stay engaged with the problems for a longer period of time.
Oh, yeah.
So first, Jeff and I would like to sincerely thank the very talented Todd Melkars for his time, efforts, and creativity in helping put that video together. He spent several days with us, going around and just watching what was happening in our classrooms on a daily basis, as well as helped with some of the interviews that I know that Mr. Ryan put together. So it's pretty amazing to kind of put that all together in just a few minutes. We'd also like to thank Ms. Jen Story for her leadership, support, and expertise. She has been instrumental in developing both the mindset and implementation needed to make this a successful initiative at all 4 middle schools. Additionally, both Jeff and I are extremely proud of the work that our teachers have done for their students in our schools, as well as their willingness to go above and beyond being just curious and challenging themselves too, to try those new things, take some risks, and do this at the benefit of the entire middle school math department. So just think, in 3 to 5 years from now, when District 129 is recognized as a model for its restorative practices through our partnership with our impact counselors and for the measurable growth that our middle school students make in the area of math, we'll have created that safe and engaging school that prioritizes relationships to leverage learning. In closing, both Jeff and I continue to be appreciative of the support and cooperation that we receive from our district administration and school board. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be serving as principals at both of our schools. At this time, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments that you may have for us.
Board members, questions?
I have a question, Dr. Krebs, and a comment.
Yes.
For 75% of your students to be engaged in a club or a sport is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. And we know when our children are involved, good things happen. It's fantastic.
100% thank you.
And I would just add to that, I know that, once again, that's not by accident, it's very purposeful intent, that all 4 of our leaders really push our kids and our parents to get their kids involved. You'll hear the same from Dr. Hiscock when we have our incoming freshmen. That's one of the first things out of his mouth is about, this is freshman year, get involved for the next 4 years. This is an opportunity for you to choose us rather than being chosen by someone else. And so getting that involvement is critical because it translates into being around the right groups, making good decisions, and then academically succeeding.
If I can just piggyback on that, this is the first opportunity for our 8th graders to get a chance to go over West High during the school year too, and to look at all the amazing things that they offer over there as well. I would continue to see our kids continue to stay involved, so appreciate that opportunity of our high school as well.
Any other comments or questions? Well done, appreciate it, nice job.
Thank you.
I would like to move to 4.3 is our property discussion. Dr. Angie Smith.
Good evening. So tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about a piece of property that actually doesn't have a school on it. We don't have many of those. But we want to talk about one of those tonight, which is our property on Prairie. So to give you a little bit of history, back in the early 2000s, this property was actually purchased with the intent of rebuilding Greenman on this site. And after the purchase, there was some deliberation and community conversation, as you can imagine, and the decision was made to instead build Greenman much like we did with Hill on its own site, but we kept the property. So it's approximately 34 acres, as you can see by the photo I've included there. It has Prairie to the south, and then it's between essentially Edgelawn and Orchard. It is 34 acres, a portion of that is wetlands, it's not all, as you can tell by the trees and things in the middle, it is not all buildable. At this point, we have had a survey and appraisal completed on the property, because as we contemplate what we want to do in the future, those were very outdated, they went back to the early 2000s. So, right now, that property receive a nominal amount of rental income from farming. As I mentioned before, part of it is wetlands, so it's not a huge amount of acreage for a farmer to use. Someplace between $5,000 and $7,000 a year is about what we get back on that. We've taken a look at what we believe our demographic trends are. As we've discussed before, enrollment actually is declining. Even if enrollment were to increase, this is likely not the area we would place a school, as it does not have sidewalks in that particular area. It's not really easily walkable, and so we don't foresee that we would need this as a school site, given what we know about the limited amount of remaining property in our district to build out. We're not like some of our neighbors where there's a lot of undeveloped property. Most of our property is built out, and what does remain is a bit more commercial, closer to the tollway. So at this point, our recommendation would be that we're best served by this property going back on the tax rolls. So property for us to sell is a little different than if you choose to sell your home. The first thing that has to happen as part of that process, you guys have done this before with other property, and this is property, is we declare it as surplus. We declare that there's not a need for it, and that would take board action that we would do. Then we would develop some parameters for what we would like to see there, because we do have the ability to craft an RFP. We would want to be very specific about being a good neighbor, and also making sure we get highest and best value, that we look at what sort of zoning would need to be in that location, what sort of project or home development we would like to see, and we would craft all of that into an RFP. So we would look for uses that benefits the district, as I said, and compatible with neighbors. And then this is also a sealed bid process, much like we do construction projects, but it's in reverse. So instead of looking for a low bidder, we are looking for high bidder. And so typically what would happen is we would share those parameters as part of the notice requirements I'll go over in a minute, and then we would actually schedule a bid opening and open the bids in public. As part of that timeline, we would look to begin an RFP early this summer. As I mentioned before, what we would look at, what we would like to see in that location, what sort of density we would like to see. We would work with the city to know what zoning the city would be comfortable with. We are required, when we decide to sell property, to post a notice to bidders. It's very similar to our other bids. It has to go in a local newspaper, things like that on our website. We would look to do that early in the summer. And then we would have a bid opening late summer, early fall. And the reason why we're looking at that proposed timeline is that we know if this were to become residential, which is what we would propose and would anticipate, that gives them then time to use the fall to their best advantage before having to put shovels in the ground in the spring. So some of this is about aligning that timeline. And then we would look to close sometime in the 23-24 school year, because we do know that sometimes going through those hoops with the city can take some time. There's obviously public meetings that are required, development committee meetings that are required, aldermen, et cetera. So ideally, we would look to have it closed sometime in the 23-24 school year, but the lag between actual bid opening and closing, and the actual closing might be a little bit longer than normal, depending on how long that city process might take. I went through that super quick, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the property, about the timeline.
So you said you'd look, for residential there, and there's residential around there.
Correct.
So we kind of be in line with what's around there.
Yeah, great question. What we would do is we would definitely look for it to be compatible with the rest of the neighborhood. We don't want it to be something significantly different. We've owned this property for 20-some years, and there have been at different points in time conversations about other things going in that the neighbors were not necessarily a fan of. And so we're cognizant of that, and we would want to be a good neighbor. And obviously residential in that part would blend right into the rest of the neighborhood. Given the wetlands and things that are there, that's where some of the density issues come into play, because there's going to be part of that property that can't be built on, might need to be used for retention and things like that. So as we develop the parameters, we would have conversations and sort of figure out what range might make sense, what would the city approve, what are the city's density requirements, and then craft something. We want to craft an RFP that's broad enough that we can get multiple parties interested, but not so broad that we end up with something that was not at all what we intended, and has way more houses per acre than we thought we were getting. Any other questions? Okay. As I said, so as part of that process, we'll start to have conversations with the city and developers, and then we ultimately would craft with council an an RFP. At that point, I would come back to the board and we would, similar to our construction process, talk about going out to bid, place it in the newspaper, and then we would have a bid opening and come back to you, and at that point have bids approved. This time again, approving the high bid. We can reject all bids if for some reason we don't get back what we thought we would get, or if we don't receive any bidders, then we would likely regroup. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
4.4, Community Affairs Update, Mrs. Ana Gonzalez.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Craig. So today's Community Affairs Update is 14 pages long and includes some events that even were set for today. So this morning was the Fine Arts Signing Day, which celebrated more than 30 seniors who have earned in excess of $4 million in art-based scholarships. The purpose of signing days is to celebrate students' decisions for life after high school, and our Skills USA will be hosting its signing day this Thursday at 3:15, while the Future Educator program will host theirs on May the 17th at 3:15. Today was also slated to be the Student Mental Health Awareness Festival at West Aurora High School. However, because of the weather today, the event has been postponed to Monday, May the 8th. So please stay in touch with your Board of Ed activities calendar for changes such as this one, as well as any future additions to the report. Tomorrow evening, West High will host the Seal of Biliteracy Awards, celebrating the 196 students who have earned either their state commendation towards biliteracy or the state seal of biliteracy. The month of May will see the final 2 incoming 6th grade welcome nights, with Jefferson's hosted this week Wednesday and Hurgett's on May the 9th. These events give families a chance to explore their middle school, pick up course recommendations, learn about sports and activities, and meet teachers and administrators. Dr. Valerie McCall will host the final Equity Cafe of the school year this Thursday, May the 4th at Hurgett Middle School. Participants will engage in thoughtful conversations with all 3 of the district's equity groups. Those are the Student Equity Advisory Council, the District Equity Leadership Team, and the Community Equity Advisory Council. Dinner and childcare will be provided. And I'm happy to share that 6 staff members, including one who's with us this evening, are nominees for the King County Educator of the Year, which is a 47-year tradition hosted by the King County Regional Office of Education. Winners will be announced at the banquet this Friday, May the 5th. Our candidates include Deborah Mickelson, paraprofessional from Schneider Elementary, Elisa Hunt, band instructor at Hurgett Middle School, Teresa Toll, special education at West High, Dr. Ann Butcher, STEM teacher at Fern Elementary, Madison Mikos, PE teacher at West High, and Dr. Chuck Hiscock, principal of West Aurora High School. We will also be hosting an open house showcasing the Wisner Family Center for Career Development, especially the new programming in Bays 1 and 4. That event will be held on May the 10th from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. and will include student-led tours of both our automation and robotics and advanced building trades bays. So come and see what all that is about. Our retirement breakfast will be held the morning of May the 15th, right here at the district office. We have 28 retirees this year, so we hope you can join us in thanking them for their service and wishing them well in retirement. And then finally, Hope Wall's graduation will take place May 19th. West Aurora's 154th commencement ceremony will take place on May the 21st. And 8th grade promotion nights will take place between May the 22nd through the 25th. So this is just a highlight of all of the events, and this concludes our Community Affairs update for May the 1st. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Gonzalez. It's pretty telling that this is the month of May. Here we go. Moving into the discussion portion, we have the naming committee recommendation. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd like to report that the naming committee, which involved Alex Alexander from the City of Aurora, Nate Wendell from the VNA Healthcare, Michael Isaacson, King County Health Department, our own Dr. Angela Smith, and board member Dykstra, met on April 26th, and I would like to thank them for accepting the invitation of this very special process. And due and based on the positive outcome of said meeting, I would like the motion be made on May 15th board meeting to name the new facility the Jeff Craig Family Resource Center. It's very positive. It's a great meeting. It's an honor to serve with that committee.
We appreciate that. I'm again speechless. That happened more than twice a year. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
5.2, I know there was a lot of information shared by Mr. Bob Lewis. There was a follow-up question Mr. Kearns raised about the possibility of the school district having the capability of purchasing their own treasury bonds. There was a lengthy response from Mr. Lewis to that question. The bottom line is we can't. But the other bottom line is if we were able to afford the cost of, we would pay that off ourselves and use our own dollars. So it just doesn't make sense in our current environment, given the interest rates and given where we'll be at that point in time, this moment in time, that's not a direction we can pursue. But doesn't mean that we won't be monitoring the market and see if that's a viable option for us so that we can utilize those interest payments that we work so hard to secure for our district. Just for the record, almost $50 million where we deferred taxpayers having to foot interest payments for that referendum back in 2015. We're really proud of that process. Questions about that?
We won't see the step 3 on this at the next board meeting because we need to, first of all, see the new board, and then PMA will kind of give us the high sign when they think it's a good time to execute. Gives us a little window, so maybe a little bit of lag when we come back to step 3.
And absolutely no guarantee that, that the environment's gonna have to be right for us. Okay, 5.3, in discussion, I would ask for our athletic director, Mr. Jason Buckley, who shared with you some of our thoughts about the possibility of consideration for conference change, and ask Jason to share with you some more information and details about that. Jason? And our high school principal, Dr. Hiscock.
I'm not Jason, I'm Joe, but I did want to start off by saying that we recognize this is an unusual request. We were standing here 5 years ago, and we didn't think we would ever have to stand here again asking to realign conferences, but it's not something that we are super thrilled about asking you to have us do, but we feel like it's in the best interest of our kids, and I'm gonna let Jason explain why. So I just wanted to take a little bit of the brunt of the realization that this is unusual, and it might not necessarily be something that's palatable to all of us, but we think it's in the best interest of our kids, so that's why we're making the recommendations.
Thanks, Joe. So just to kind of give a little background on our timeline, as Chuck mentioned, we joined as full-fledged members of the Southwest Burger Conference in the fall of 2019. Obviously, that was a COVID-shortened year, and we participated with abbreviated seasons and schedules the following year. Both last year and this year, we have competed with full schedules and full seasons. And it was in January that the Upstate 8 voted to expand for the 24-25 school year. I know there was some information out there about this upcoming school year, and that is not accurate. It would be for the year after. So with that, we, Dr. Hiscock and I had some conversations with Dr. Craig, and subsequently had some conversations with the board, and just as something that maybe we should take a look into, and I'll get into some of that a little bit more in detail here shortly. So we sent a letter of interest in February, and at that point, they asked us to come to present to the Upstate 8 to see if we would be a worthwhile candidate. And last Monday evening, we received a letter from the Upstate 8 indicating that they would like to take us on excuse me, as a member of their conference again. So, you know, how do we get back to this point? And it's really two things. The realignment or, I guess, alignment of the Southwest Prairie Conference and the levels of competition. And those were both things that were not what they were advertised to be. So with that said, the SBC slotted teams into two divisions, to 16 divisions, so 12 teams total. And they made the promise to reevaluate those divisions after 2 years. Obviously with COVID, that was not something we were gonna really pursue. We said, let's hold off another year. We brought it up after last school year. That was quickly dismissed, shut down, both at the athletic director level and at the principal level, with Chuck. So when I say with Chuck, I mean Chuck brought that to the rest of the conference principals, and they really didn't have much of an appetite for looking into realignment. So from there, it was again brought up at the end of the fall season, several coaches meetings, conference coaches meetings at the end of their season brought up the idea that we need to take a look at realignment, and it was more than just West Aurora there. Really, it was Yorkville and West Aurora kind of leading those discussions and those charges, but there were some other coaches that felt like this might be something worth looking into. So Luke Engelhardt at Yorkville and I sat down and we developed a plan. We said we can't come with a problem without coming with a solution. So we developed a solution that would last for essentially 2 years and basically take part of one group, part of the East Division, part of the West Division, kind of meld them together and create, you know, 2 separate divisions. So the long and short of it, take the first, third, and fifth team from the East, second, fourth, and sixth from the West, make them a division, and do the opposite for a second division. And we ran it out, we developed schedules for everybody, we said this is exactly what it could potentially look like. Obviously, the players might change, but it was just shown as an example.
When you say first, third, fifth, what sport are you referring to?
Any sport. Any sport that utilizes division, so it could be.
So would it be universal?
Correct, so because we do have several sports currently that are just one, it's just one huge conference.
Sure.
So, we were just gonna use that for divisional based, sports such as softball, volleyball, football, basketball. And we thought, all right, there's at least something, there's a starting point there at least, if nothing else. The solution was brought to the athletic directors, and it was dismissed before it ever really became a thing. Not only was the solution not entertained, but further discussion about realignment was voted down.
Other than Yorkville, who else said they would at least talk about it?
Oswego said they would talk about it. That was it. Everybody else said, we don't even want to discuss this. That was then brought back to the principals, same result at the principal meeting. So, you know, our frustration came from not the fact that they didn't like the proposal, but it was their unwillingness to at least have the discussion, and that was, you know, obviously quite frustrating. So from there, you know, and part of our rationale for having that discussion were the levels of play. We knew going into this conference, we were going to lose a couple levels here and there. Girls volleyball was one that we knew we were going to lose a level, and we were still going to try and make it up in non-conference play.
Can I just say, clarify, when you say lose a level, it means there is a JV?
Yeah, I'm sorry, eliminate a level altogether. So for instance, in girls volleyball, what we had done previously was play freshman A and B, sophomore, JV, and varsity. So in
Previously, like the EBC or?
in the South, or I'm sorry, in the upstate. The upstate has those 5 levels. In the SBC, they don't have a sophomore level. So we tried to maintain our sophomore level and go out and find non-conference contests for that group. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find as many because the nights that we were available, other schools wouldn't. That became a difficult thing to do logistically. And we found after 2 years, we weren't able to satisfy the needs of our students. So starting this year, we actually said, you know what, we're gonna increase the size of our other squads, which also poses some problems too, and eliminate that sophomore level. So our overall numbers wouldn't change, but our levels of competition and
participation or game.
Exactly. So, and that's obviously had some challenges because we had a situation last year where we had a full-fledged sophomore team and they were only playing like 9 games. And you know, in a sport where you can play up to 35, that makes it difficult. So we knew going in we were gonna have to get creative and adjust. What we didn't anticipate was losing so many more levels along the way. And you know, we found that a lot of schools are not playing freshman B levels in a lot of sports. Some aren't playing any freshman levels at all. And so that has been quite frustrating to, you know, keep our freshmen engaged. And you know, and that's not to say that everybody in the Upstate 8 is, but a good portion of them are. And the ironic thing about the whole thing is we end up filling these levels with teams like Marlin, South Elgin, and other schools in the Upstate 8. So that's been a challenge, but you know, something we've tried to work around as best we can. So you know, but at the end of the day, the levels just weren't being played at as high a level as was initially promised. So I know kind of a tough chart to read, but you get an idea there. On the left column is levels that the Upstate 8 is playing, and on the right, levels that the Southwest Prairie is playing. And the overall total is 74-65. Now, that said, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, every single team in both conferences is playing all of those levels, but those are conference scheduled levels of play. So, and those would be squads that we all have. Now, in activities, it's pretty much a wash there. The only difference between the two in the SBC, they do the Band and Choral Festival. But other than that, those are both consistent. We understand there are some challenges in changing conferences, and Dr. Hiscock alluded to one of them. Here we are again, and wouldn't be out of line for anybody in front of me right now to say I told you so, and because you wouldn't be wrong. You know, one of the issues that would be there is, you know, our travel times would be slightly longer. On average, throughout there'd be about a 4-minute increase. If we went division by division, you know, within the proposed division that we would potentially find ourselves versus the division we're currently in, be about a 10-minute difference. Given where teams are coming from and some of the transportation issues that a lot of schools and districts are running into, you know, I think the Upstate 8 has kind of figured out, hey, we don't need to start games as early as some of these other conferences are starting. We can start a little bit later and actually start on time. Prime example is, we've had football situations where sophomore teams can't get to our place by 4:30, even if they're coming from, you know, just down the street, not Oswego or even Yorkville. We've had transportation issues with some schools, and they don't even get here until after the scheduled start of the game. In the Upstate 8, we wouldn't be starting games till 5 o'clock. That way, parents aren't sitting there for a half hour, and ultimately, who bears the brunt of that? That would be yours truly. You know, so that's one of those things that we're definitely cognizant of. We also know in sports like tennis and golf, our country club sports, they are, you know, we'd be a little bit more challenged in finding consistent, high-level competition in the Upstate 8. However, we've done it before, and we've done it successfully before, and you know, those two sports have the opportunity to invitationals and additional contests that would, that we'd be able to select and fit ourselves in nicely for. So, and part of that comes with the demographics, which I'll get into a little bit here shortly. And then finally, as I mentioned, the perception of conference jumping. You know, that, I think one of the things that we need to be aware of too is when we left the Upstate 85 years ago, we left a conference that was drastically different than the one that we entered. For those of you that were around for that initial entry into the Upstate 8, we had the District 204 schools, both St. Charles schools, Batavia and Geneva. So when they left, things were altered significantly because we had two divisions and travel was a little bit more minimized. And so I think having the opportunity to go back to the Upstate 8 where they've got some divisional play that is going to be aligned to who we are, I think is going to be very important as well. So in speaking to that, as far as the demographics are concerned, when we talk about the low income piece, our low income percentage here at the high school is about 45%. The SPC average is 29%, and the Upstate 8 is at 41%, much more in line with who we are. So I think that is, that's something that's important as well. And as far as the other teams in our proposed division, that's something that it's not finalized, but I believe Dr. Craig shared what those proposed divisions could potentially look like. Looking at Bartlett, East Aurora, Elgin, Lombard, East Larkin, and South Elgin, I think those are very comparable schools to Western High School. So, and then finally, some opportunities for us. I think first and foremost, be the opportunity to get more students engaged in athletics and participate, provide a more competitive experience for our student athletes. We've really been impressed with the out-of-the-box thinking since we were in the Upstate 8 the last time. This proposal for their expansion also adds 3 other schools: Riverside, Grove-Field, Ridgewood, and Elmwood Park. A little bit smaller schools might have a small school division, a larger school division, and I think we can really get creative with our scheduling, which is something we did the last time around when we were there. And we had to get creative a lot because we were a 16-team league, we were a 13-team league, we were a 9-team league, in consecutive years. So we had to think out of the box in the Upstate 8, and I think that is continuing. One of the other things that they've adopted, which we've been very impressed with, is a hate speech conference policy. And once again, getting back to the demographics, I think that is something that a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of people do enough about. And the Upstate 8 is taking a lead on that, along with a few other conferences north of us. Really been leaders within the state with that as well. So, and then finally, rekindling some of those traditional rivalries. I think there's nothing better than an East-West Friday night football game. And really, it could be an East-West Tuesday afternoon softball game, and that gets everybody going. There's no doubt. And then we talk about some of the longest rivalries, not only in our area but in the state, in the country. Us alongside Elgin High School as well. Coach, we're talking over 100 years with them as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then more recently, having been in the BBC and the Upstate 8 with them, Lombard East and us developed a very nice rivalry and friendly rivalry that's really developed over the last 25, 30 years that we're proud of too. So, that was a lot, but.
So this will be our third go around in the Upstate 8. And our 4th conference in 20 years.
And my last bid for a conference change.
Mr. St. Jules, can you repeat that again, please?
So it'll be the third time that we've been in the Upstate 8, and if my counting is correct, I think this is our fourth conference since like 2000.
That would be correct.
DVC,
Upstate 8, SBC.
Upstate.
And some of that's because the teams in those have changed.
Correct. So,
Because I kind of thought the Upstate 8 was like imploding last time in 11. Isn't that what it seemed like?
well, at the time, they were losing. They didn't have a direction.
Yeah.
They really didn't have a direction, and I think within the last years, they've kind of developed a sense of who they want to be and what they want to be, and that was the sense that we've really gotten over the last several months working with them. They want to be working with them. They want to increase their offerings. They, as new sports become available throughout the state of Illinois, become recognized by the IHSA, they want to take a more active role in finding a way to get that done.
I mean, they got the tournaments with, if this expansion occurs with everyone they're talking about, was it 14 they'll have?
Correct. So we divisions of 7.
So if I understand it correctly, if we make this change, the only two sports that we will struggle finding competition for are the country club type ones, tennis and golf.
Well, and
Correct?
that's one, I don't know that we'd struggle to find competition necessarily, but I think it's probably not gonna be on the level that we've been used to the last couple of years. So,
With
with the Southwest Prairie. Right.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say individually, there are gonna be some teams that are gonna be very, very good, but collectively, it's not as strong as those two schools. But that said, we've got a lot of flexibility in both those schedules, which is nice. And that's just because of the nature of the sports. We've got 6 days in a week that we can schedule those sports, as opposed to say football, where really you got 1 or 2 days you can schedule.
So then the other sports, the girls volleyball, boys soccer, football, girls tennis, boys and girls basketball, badminton, baseball, that have lost levels of competition currently won't experience the same thing.
No, we'd be in a good spot there, because instead of having to go search out, say, freshman league, we would have those built into our conference schedule. And so currently what happens, let's say, I'll just use an example, Oswego East. We want to we're playing a baseball game against Oswego East, and the conference schedules a freshman game, a sophomore game, and a varsity game. What we have to do is say, hey, do you have enough for the freshman team? Yeah, maybe. Well, it might depend on our pitching, whatever. So we find ourselves oftentimes day up, and sorry, I can't play the freshman. As opposed to, we go to play South Elgin, that's part of our conference schedule. And the expectation is we're playing that game and we're figuring it out.
And the good thing about that is we get more kids involved, so like, Dr. Smith was talking about, his kids getting involved and coming into high school involved, right? So then we can get, we've got a place for those kids involved.
Absolutely. And it's so incredibly important at the freshman level to see, just try it out, see if you like it. And to grow there, we had, I think last year at our Excellence in Athletics banquet, we had one baseball player, and I think we had a basketball player, and there was somebody in another sport. They were freshman B kids as freshmen, and they ended up being all conference kids eventually. So are those the type of athletes that we might be using? We should pull that out. So, it's outrageous.
The argument that you had regarding the direction of the Upstate 8, isn't that the same argument you gave us for the SPC back in 2019, as far as the direction that they were heading and being able to provide more opportunities?
That was, and for lack of a better term, some little kids. And it's been frustrating because, I'm friends with a lot of the athletic directors in that conference, and I've had to stand there and say, this isn't what you told us. And they understand. They understand where we're coming from. And there really isn't a whole lot for them to refute, because just, they told us one thing and we got something else.
I clarify a little bit too, Mr. Buckley's being a little, he's been a little humble, he shared a lot of data with the SDC, athletic directors and high school principals, that made a pretty compelling case for why you use the grant money. And they just, they're not doing it.
That's right.
Wouldn't even consider it.
A competitive balance is what we're looking for.
Very, very frustrating.
But then they also agreed to look at that. I understand COVID gave a reason not to initially, but then why not look at it in 21, 22? If that was part of the original arrangement.
It was a great question.
Very good question.
And we have yet to receive a very good rationale. And so when brought forth again this November, it was just shut down. When we had conversations with them in regards to our intentions to just explore, we got questions. We understand. That was, we thought we might. It was as if they just said, okay, we'll go find somebody else. So there was, to this point, there's been no attempt to salvage the relationship.
I think one of the things that addresses the questions that we're hearing, and certainly we knew that going in, when you think about, we're one voice, compared to 11 others, and some of those voices are collectives. You have a district of 4 voices, and another district, several other districts of 2 each. It doesn't take long for a couple of those to create a majority. One of the things that we looked at with the Upstate 8, and will have an expectation, is that we will have a voice to be able to have this dialogue when it comes to levels, when it comes to realignment, so that there is a competitive piece and there is more opportunities for our kids. And so I know that's something that's of concern, and it's something that we're not gonna be shy about articulating to the Upstate 8 group.
What type of NIL opportunities is there open up for board members?
I actually sat in an NIL meeting at our, Illinois Athletic Director State Conference yesterday, not for board members, but we can talk offline on that.
Any chance you have, or recall the numbers that we were proposing when we left the city previously, before we went to SPC? As you point out, right now it looks like 74 and 65, but what was it when we went into the region back in 2019?
So we knew we were gonna lose, girls volleyball, boys soccer, and girls tennis. We knew we were gonna go from 3 levels to 2. The others have just slowly dissipated.
Boys baseball's been an issue this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. That's been one that's been very, very frustrating.
We actually have a date to play a game, it's few and far between.
What about the other activities, non-sports? Are those?
They're almost exactly the same, except for choir band, but I think the only thing is
Yeah. It's the only thing that's.
So those competitions haven't lost anything at all?
When talking with Mrs. Rice, she felt like either way, we're in good shape with the activities.
Are there any other areas that you'd like to see Mr. Buckley or Dr. Hiscock get more information, share back with, follow-ups?
How do we keep ourselves from being sold another goods? Well, I know it's a crystal ball, you can't.
Sure.
Well, that's interesting, your point that you brought up about, different districts having multiple teams, playing field, right, is that one of them? So in the Upstate 8 now, is there not a,
U46.
like that?
U46 has 5.
Oh, they built up.
Yeah.
Because they actually combine a bunch of their teams, don't they?
In some sports they do, they'll co-op, yep. And so, you know, those are some of the things we'll kind of have to work through and.
They don't bonus a block either. Plainville schools won't bonus a block. They're told that this is a block. And it's always.
With 14 schools, it helps with the numbers down. Any other clarifications, follow-ups? So, we're going to ask the board to take action on this on the 15th. Part of our challenges is that in the Upstate 8, making an official offer to accept us in, we have to respond by the 15th. So we'll probably ask for, if we can get a 24-hour dispensation so that the board can take action, we go through our process. And then we can let them know immediately following, or if we'll take a late night submission.
All right, thank you very much.
Mrs. Saperstein, I turn back to you for action items.
We need a motion for action item 6.1.
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation that the contract for the wall panel replacement on transportation project number 22121 be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, Westbrook Sheet Metal Inc. for a total contract amount of $109,436.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Mrs. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Latham.
Aye.
Mr. St. Charles.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mrs. Stone. Aye. Mrs. Saperstein.
Aye. We move to the public comment section. Mrs. Secretary, we have a public comment, correct? Yes. When the secretary calls your name, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the public record, and provide your feedback. Please note that the comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and that no discussion of personnel matters, student discipline, or responses to questions are permitted. The board does not participate in discussion during public comment. Follow-up to your questions or concerns will be addressed through the contact information provided on the comment card. When addressing the microphone, please hold to our public conduct policy. Mrs. Secretary, please call the first name.
Jen Cressy.
Jenny Cressy, 2105 Kensington Place, Aurora, Illinois. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. According to the Illinois Association of School Boards, the function of a school board is to provide local citizen control over public education, representing the community and its aspirations for its local schools. As a stakeholder in this community, I am asking that you as a board start inviting more public discussion to these meetings. Every time I've attended a board meeting, you comment on how it takes such bravery to come up here and speak. Yet only a few of you appear to be listening. It's disappointing that you don't engage with differing opinions when they are presented. In fact, it makes the presenter wonder if presenting to you in this forum has any impact at all. Our community is incredibly diverse, but until you reach out to those diverse stakeholders and those with differing views, you cannot possibly represent all of your constituents, which is your purported function. In order to gain insight, otherwise unobtainable, and in an attempt to understand how you are supporting the community members upset by the decision to cancel the SCEP program, I submitted a FOIA request for emails and text messages regarding this decision. And what I discovered was that only one board member has asked meaningful questions to district administration about the cancellation. There are 7 of you. Am I to assume that instead you're having conversations behind closed doors? Or are you not concerning yourselves at all? In my view, transparency from this board and from district administration looks like answering questions that are asked, responding to our concerns in a meaningful way. Through the course of this ongoing inquiry on my part, I've learned how difficult it is to have one's concerns addressed. It takes unrelenting persistence on my part. Many of our community members do not have the time to devote to such persistent exercise. I am video recording tonight's meeting, and I will share it online via YouTube for anyone who is interested. It would be a step in the right direction if you made the decision to live stream these meetings instead of relying on private citizens to communicate for you. Other local districts provide videos of their meetings. You enjoy touting the ways in which our district is light years ahead of the others. Video streaming is a basic resource these days. I have learned through countless emails, phone calls, and face-to-face conversations surrounding the cancellation of this program was started 6 years ago. For context, 5 years ago, teachers were no longer allowed to group students by abilities for small group learning. 2 years ago, the enrichment opportunities were open to a broader range of students. And when that change was made, all rigor was removed from the program. And now we're being told that test scores can no longer support the SCEP program. It seems like the changes that were made caused the decline in the scores. I understand that no one will be reinstating the SCEP program, but I hope for the sake of the younger gifted children across our district, you will strongly encourage the administration to meet the needs of our gifted learners. Parents should not have to be this persistent.
This is up.
Okay,
Thank you.
please include this in the meeting minutes.
That's all.
Thank you. I turn it over to our superintendent for his comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Saperston. As I think about our call to action, as I have been articulated in many of our events regarding elevating the conversation on public education in West Aurora, I want to highlight some areas of great pride of what we offer. Sometimes we take for granted what experiences are available to our students and staff in our setting. Would never pretend that we are perfect, but we certainly are anything but complacent. And we continue to find ways to get better every day. So tonight I want to just talk about a brief segment of our district, and I'll have more to offer in subsequent dates. I want to talk about our birth through 5th grade. So our parent initiative supports our program as parents as teachers that serves families, and I will articulate 120 families serving 130 different kids from birth to 3 years old, as well as expectant parents, and it's designed to guide parents in supporting their children so they can learn and grow and develop their full potential. The Early Learning Academy, we host roughly 400 families or 400 students. That's our half-day program. And then our preschool expansion, which is located in 4 different buildings, and that's our full-day offering, 10 different sections. We have an annual developmental screening for students between ages 3 to 5 with averages 600 screenings per year. It's impressive. In our elementary, we have 4,500 students K through 5 that engage in weekly STEM instruction, focusing on activities that provide hands-on and minds-on lessons. We've adopted balanced numeracy, which is a philosophy that you heard a little bit about tonight with our mathematics instruction. Additionally, our elementary students are instructed within an elementary literacy block, which focuses on balancing explicit language instruction with independent learning and language exploration. So those are just a few things that we push out a lot of information. Mrs. Gonzalez and her team, we find a variety of media that we push out, whether it's through videos, podcasts, updates, emails, a plethora of ways to be able to find ways to meet parents, meet students, meet the community where they are communication-wise. Sometimes the message gets lost in translation. As you can tell, I'm very passionate, I'm very proud of the efforts that we make and what we do and what we offer, and you won't find those not only in every school district, you won't even find those in every public school district. So the next time I want to talk a little bit about our middle school, our high school, and our transition programs, which are also highlights for this district and things that we're really super proud of. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Turn it over to our student board member comments.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all finding a good ending to the school year. As we're coming to the closing phases of the year, we actually have a lot of exciting events going on. So first off, our AFJROTC unit recently had their end of year ceremony. No, wait for the slides. Thank you. There we go. Alright, so our AFJROTC unit recently had their end of the year ceremonies where we announced next year's student leadership to prepare for another successful year. We also had our closing JROTC field day, which was full fun water gun fights and obstacle courses, and our unarmed judo team also got recognition from the Aurora Mayor Richard Irving for their national championship. 2 weeks ago, our Stellar Explorers team also showed off their skills in Houston for the National Stellar Explorers Design Competition, where they got tours of the Houston Space Center as one of the top 10 teams in the nation. And this weekend, the Skills USA team competed in the state competition in Peoria, where they actually had a clean sweep in CNC programming. The whole podium was full of West Aurora students, with Kevin Wright taking first place, Joshua Kennedy taking second place, and Aiden Herrera taking third place. Moving to the fine arts, we will also be having our final band concert of the year this Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And lastly, I hope that you guys all had the chance to see the hilarious and exciting musical presented by our drum club this weekend.
Additionally, this upcoming Saturday, West will be hosting its prom. The theme for this year is Red Carpet / Night Gala. I'm extremely excited for this Saturday. I know Andrew and I will be getting sturdy on the dance floor. Also, I want to congratulate the varsity soccer team on their win against Joliet Central and on their senior night. These are some pictures. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., we invite you to come and support seniors who have obtained their literacy or commendation seal by celebrating their incredible achievements. The day seniors have dreamed of is finally here. On May 21st, the class of 2023 will graduate. The commencement ceremony will take place at NAU at 10 a.m. That's all.
Thank you. Board member comments.
I just wanted to say, Andrew, Crystal, thank you guys for everything this year. It's been wonderful. Your slideshows have been really fun recently too. I wish you both the best going forward. And please also tell Delaney how much we appreciated her as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you to our student board members. It's been awesome this year. We just really appreciate your perspective from high school and all your updates, so thank you. I also wanted to talk about I had the opportunity to attend the Hall of Honor events last week on the 21st and the 22nd. So neat to see so many 6 honorees that were graduates of West Aurora that have gone into just really amazing things, variety of fields, and it was just so neat to spend time with them. I really appreciate them taking the time to come and spend the whole day Friday at the high school, speaking to classes, talking to kids, and sharing about their experiences and how they came from a classroom there at West and went on to do these amazing things. And I think that's such a neat opportunity for our kids to hear from people that have been sitting in their seat and then have gone on to do awesome things. So I want to thank those honorees for taking the time to do that. Thank you for all the alumni and the A+ Foundation for coming out for those events and for supporting West Aurora and our students. I also wanted to say I went to the spring musical and it was amazing, super funny. I could tell they put in a lot of work and they just did a really great job. So congratulations to all the kids that were in the musical, and thank you for the great job they did.
Did you write Macbeth? Just kidding. I think the Hall honorees and the individuals who represent our school district in so many ways truly shows what public education can do. And I'm so glad, as Dr. Craig has pointed out, that he's a proponent of public education, as well as having our student board members demonstrate how well they represent those individuals within our school as well as themselves. So it makes me very proud to be able to sit up here and know that, hey, my kids went through public education, are doing well, and we have so many other fine people who have done the same thing. So I'm very grateful for that and thankful for that. And good luck.
I just want to say thank you to our student board members for serving,
representing all the students in West Aurora. Thank you so much, and I wish you good luck in the future.
Thank you to our student board members. We appreciate your youthfulness and your insight on the videos. I was sitting at the Hall of Honor dinner, and I was extremely moved. As I sat there, I did not come from Aurora, didn't come from North Aurora or any of the surrounding communities. And I sat there in the room while we were having dinner, and I was moved at how many people come back to West Aurora, because this is the foundation that we have given them. And it reminds me of how humbled I am to serve on this school board and know that we are truly making a difference in 12,000 plus student lives and our staff. It's unbelievable the impression that we make and how they then come back and give here to West Aurora. And it makes me incredibly proud to serve. I would like to congratulate our 14 students that competed in the FCCLA State Leadership Conference. As a result of their competition, 3 students are now going on to serve as national delegates. We had another 50 students compete at the Skills USA that our student board members showed us pictures of. And not only did they bring home countless awards, but they gained confidence and experiences that will take them out into the real world. And once again, it reminds me why we serve in public education. There's no other comments or questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to move